Hello, hi to everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about and summarize A Pale View of Ills by Kazuo Ishiguro. Kazuo Ishiguro is a Japanese-British novelist, screenwriter, short story writer. Ishiguro was born in Nagasaki, Japan, and moved to Britain in 1960 with his parents when he was 5. A Pale View of Ills and an artist of the floating world were noted for their exploration of Japanese identity and their mournful tone. He thereafter explored other genres, including science fiction and historical fiction. A Pale View of Ills, written by Kazuo Ishiguro's first novel. He was born in Nagasaki in 1954, as I told. Ishiguro immigrated with his family to the United Kingdom when he was 5 years old. Despite his family's Japanese urgings, the author frequently states in interviews that his experience with Japanese culture is very limited. So, as he spent all his adult life in England, that's why he quoted these lines. Simultaneously, however, growing up in Japanese family developed in Ishiguro a different perspective compared to his English peers. The result is a unique writing style that relies on conspiratorial narrators and character dialogue to speak to the human condition and memory. So, a pale view of ills with a first person narrator who tells the story of the suicide one of her daughters. There are few major characters listed here. Characters Esiko, main protagonist, middle-aged Japanese woman. Keiko, Esiko's elder daughter who commits suicide in the beginning of the story. Nikki, Esiko's second daughter by her English husband. Sachiko, Sachiko, woman known to Esiko and possibly a third person on whom Esiko projects bad memories, thoughts, and events, and Sachiko's daughter Mariko. Sachiko's daughter and possibly a representation of Esiko's daughter Keiko. You will come to know that at the end of this novel. And Jiro, Esiko's first husband, Ogata-san Jiro's father and father-in also Esiko's. Frank, man that Sachiko was going to America. Master Fujiwara, the owner of noodle shop, Hanada, Jiro's friend, Shujio Matsuda, a student in Ogata San's class, especially in the time of World War II in Nagasaki. And A Pale View of Ills is the story of Asiko, a middle-aged Japanese woman. So she is living alone in England and opens with discussion between Asiko and her younger daughter Nikki when they are going to revisit their native, and about the recent suicide of Esiko's older daughter, Keiko. Especially, this novel is going to narrated by one and only Esiko's first life events in Nagasaki. And now I'm going with summary. A pale view of ills follows two specific temporal points. One one in modern day, and especially in 1980s. It means at the present day she is going to narrate, and England, and one in post world war, in the time of world war in Japan. So connected through the first person recollection of the narrator Esiko. The story begins with a visit from Esiko's younger daughter named Nikki at their country house in England. Asiko is a Japanese and she met and married her English husband when her older daughter Keiko was 7 years old. They moved to England, but Keiko was unable to adapt to the new place and became reckless. She eventually moved. moved away to Manchester and became reckless. She eventually moved away to Manchester and committed suicide shortly before the start of the narrative. So this is what how the novel itself narrated by a main protagonist character Etsuko. A pale view of ills, especially parallels between past and present. Esiko is the first person narrator and main character of A Pale View of Ills, and the entire novel is narrated by only Esiko from only her point of view. This is what the narrative technique and the setting and time of the novel shift back forth between a narrative present and narrative past. Both present and past stories are told by Esiko based entirely on her perception and memories. So during when the novel begins, during Nikki's visit, Esiko reminds about the summer when she was pregnant with Keiko. Now she is narrating about her past life. The narrator shifts to her past when she and her first husband Zero live in a new housing development on the outskirts of Nagasaki. Live in a new housing development, the outskirts of Nagasaki. She befriends an old woman, Sachiko, who lives alone with her daughter, Mariko, in an old house by the nearby river. Sachiko neglects her child, so Esiko attempts to befriend the girl and supervise her. Mariko, however, is not very friendly or a lovable child, and the two are unable to connect. Through Asiko's conversation with Sachiko's, it becomes clear that the older woman is from an educated and affluent family. Her father traveled often and had a business connection with America, but after the death of her husband, presumably her family, she lost her social standing. She desires more out of life and plans to immigrate to America with the help of her American lover, Frank. But in the meantime, Etsuko's father, Ingla Wagata-san, arrives for a visit. There is a reason why he visited Nagasaki. He is widowed, but rather than live with his son's family, as is traditional, he lives in a different town. Esiko is very fond of Ogata-san because he is also foster father her foster father. After she lost her entire family and love interest, presumably during the bombing of Nagasaki, her school director Ogata San took her in. She then met and eventually married his son Jiro. The reason for Ogata-san's visit is an article he recently read in an educational journal in which his one-time friend Shizio Matsuda and he argues that the old education system and those who support it should be removed and new one instituted. This was told by Shizio Matsuda. Ogata-san dedicated his life to educating the hand. So he is deeply hurt by such a statement from someone he helped in the past. See here, Shizio Matsuda was got helped by the main father-in-law. It means Ogata-san. So he is deeply hurted by his statement. That's why he is quoting. And he wants Zero to write to Shizio and demand a retraction or an explanation. Finally, Zero, however, seems to agree, at least to an extent with Shizio. Finally, during an outing to Nagasaki with Etsuko, Wagata-san runs into the Shizio and confronts him. Shizio explains that he respects the former director, but he believes the older generation of teachers is misguided. So then he blames the traditional education system for Japan's involvement in World War II and subsequent atomic for bombings. subsequent atomic bombings. After the confrontation with Shizio, Wagata-san prefers to return his town. And at this time, Sachiko's American lover abandons her and she begins working at noodle shop owned by one of Esiko's acquaintances. Sachiko believes such work to be beneath her, but she is willing to do it in order to have time to search for Frank because Sachiko's American lover abandons her. This is the main reason and have to time to search for Frank. She eventually finds him and they make up. Frank promises they will soon move to Kobe, where he will get a spot on ship bound for America, and will then send money and then will then send money back for Sachiko and Mariko's ticket. This is what the main reason why Sachiko searching for Frank. And while packing, Sachiko tells her daughter they cannot bring the newborn kittens for which Mariko has been caring. So that's why Sachiko takes the box with the animals, goes to the river and drowns. And Esiko recollection of this summer in Japan forms much of the narrative, but it is interested with the conversation she has with Nikki during her visit in the present day. They go to the village to have tea, and Esiko notices a girl on a swing. She later dreams about the child but realizes she is dreaming about a different girl, presumably Mariko. When they meet when they meet a neighbor during one of their outings, Esiko is unable to tell her about Keiko's death and simply implies she is still away in Manchester. Nikki receives a call from London and decides to return. Esiko mentions selling the house, but her daughter seems opposed to the idea. She also requests a picture from Japan to pass along to a friend who is interested in Esiko's life story. So Esiko finds an old calendar with a view of the Nagasaki harbor, which brings back happy memories of an outing with Keiko when they rode on the harbor's cable car. And Neki departs and Esiko stands at the garden gate and looks after her. Now, Esiko shifts the narration to a final recollection of her memories while searching for Mariko. One night, Esiko crosses the bridge over the river. She finds the child there and they have an argument. Esiko talks to Mariko about the girl's upcoming immigration to America, but her pronouns shift from you to we and promises the girl that if they do not like it in the new place, they will return. The child seems afraid and runs away from Esiko, who observes Mariko running toward the old house. This is what the short summary of the novel. Especially, the widow recalls her former life in Nagasaki, and while she rarely mentions the bomb, it silently stands behind the events recounted in Ishiguro's first novel. A Pale View of Ills has been celebrated as subtle novel about the suppression of feelings and emotions, suggestively linked to histories of importance in understanding the present. Though Ishiguro often differs from strict literary realism, most critics agree that the common themes developed in Ishiguro's novels, including A Pale View of Ills, deal with issue of memory. Especially, you can observe the main protagonist character deal with issues of memory, self-deception, and codes of etiquette, leading his characters to a re-evaluation or realization about the relative success or failure of their lives. In the themes and narrative techniques at work in a pale view of ills, students may see the influence of literary modernism.
And thank you. Thank you.